Police in Northern Ireland pieced together the movements of the stolen car used to devastate Omagh. We bring you the latest on the hunt for the bombers after the break.
Pampers Lotion Care will soon be introduced to all Pampers nappies. All Pampers, all with Lotion Care. Soon.
In an accident like that, you would call the police. But they can't arrange your insurance, can they? That's the job of the AA. I was really surprised when they had the best deal for me. AA car insurance cost less than I thought. Make sure you give them a call on 0800 444 777.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked.
How long are we going to stand by and watch America be dragged down?
I think I'm supposed to kill somebody.
Artie Teitelbaum is a real American hero.
White supremacy militia.
Why now? Why me?
A question of colour and creed in Strange Luck, tonight at 8 on 5.
Our movie tonight at 9 stars Dennis Quaid, Jessica Lange and John Goodman. Living the American dream that's a bit of a nightmare. Back to now with tonight's 5 News.
Tonight on 5 News, the last of the funerals as police trace the movements of the car used in the Omagh bombing. And feared drowned, tragedy for a honeymoon couple just days after their wedding. Also tonight, the agony and the ecstasy. A-level results out today, but are they getting easier? We'll also have all today's sports news, including England meet their match in the one-day final at Lord's. But first tonight, police revealed this afternoon they've traced the last movements of the car that carried the bomb to Omagh, bringing with it the worst terrorist atrocity Ireland's seen in 30 years. 2 men were seen abandoning the Vauxhall Cavalier, which had been stolen in the Irish Republic. Well, Sarah Smith is in Omagh for us tonight. Sarah, what are the police saying about the car used in the attack?
Well, they're saying it was stolen in Carrickmacross in County Monaghan in the Irish Republic, and that it was abandoned in Market Street. 2 men were seen getting out of the maroon Vauxhall Cavalier about 40 minutes before the blast. Now, it's not clear whether this information has come from eyewitnesses or from security video, but police are calling it a significant breakthrough. And while the hunt for the killers continues, Omagh was at a standstill again today as the final 8 funerals took place, including those of Geraldine Breslin, who was 43, and her best friend, 48-year-old Anne McComb. They worked in a shop in the High Street together. Tears mingled with the rain this morning as Geraldine Breslin's husband, Mark, and teenage son, Gareth, walked behind her coffin to the church. There have been so many funerals, but each one is an individual tragedy. Father John Forbes had married Geraldine and Mark just 3 years ago.
A woman of such beauty and kindness that words fail to describe the wonder of all she was. She was a daughter who loved her parents. She was a sister who adored her family. She was a mother who every moment of every day doted over the joy of her son. A wife who so dearly loved her husband. And a person who was a real friend to all. With those she worked, she cherished. For it was not a place of toil, but within the shop she found friends who very much became part of her family.
That shop has become a focal point for the flowers and messages of grief and condolence that have been flooding into Omagh. Geraldine and her best friend, Anne McComb, had worked together in Waterson's for 10 years, neither caring that one was a Protestant and the other a Catholic. Anne and Geraldine had been taking their lunch break together in the middle of a busy Saturday afternoon when the police moved them from here and further down the street. They were standing huddled together with their colleague Vida Short when the bomb went off and killed all 3 of them. Anne McComb's funeral was also held today in the church where she sang in the choir. She and her husband Stanley celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary in June. He was in Glasgow on Saturday, and it wasn't till 10 in the evening that the Reverend Ian Mayers found Anne's body in the morgue and phoned Stanley to break the news. Taking the service today, he said if Anne was alive, she would have spent the last 5 days helping the bereaved, but instead she leaves a family devastated by her death. Sarah Smith, Omagh, 5 News.
Well, with all the funerals finally over, attention is now turning to the victims who've survived the bombing. Not just those who were injured, but also those who had to deal with the aftermath. Today, 2 of those caught up in the devastation share their harrowing memories of last Saturday.
There was a lady and she had her family with her. There was nothing more could be done and she was dead. And she was taken off a trolley and put on the floor. But the decision was made because someone was living, needed the trolley. It was an awful hard decision for anyone in our profession. But it had to be made, and it had to be made quickly. And her son said to me, anywhere but on the floor. And all we could do was make a makeshift stretcher of 4 small chairs and put her in a room that hadn't been used for ages, and to me was so much against everything that I had trained for. And that was one incident that will stick in my memory. But all he wanted was his mother and the man's wife not to be lying on the floor.
Cries of pain and the blood everywhere and the smell of burned flesh. Children and adults crying out for their loved ones, and really them in pain themselves, psychologically in pain and physically in pain. And but it was really the futility of the whole tragedy that sticks with me worse, that why it should have happened in the first instance. We can heal broken bones and that, but the memories that people will have of this affair will never leave them.
Well, breaking news now. While we've been on the air, reports are coming through from Washington that President Clinton has ordered military strikes against terrorist targets in the Sudan and Afghanistan. The attacks are in connection with the embassy bombings in Kenya and Tanzania. The president cut short his holiday and will make an announcement shortly. Well, with me now is 5's Mark Jordan. Mark, what do we know at the moment?
Well, what we know is that President Clinton is now heading back to Washington. He has authorized these strikes, which occurred today. He struck 2 places in Afghanistan and Sudan, which he believes were responsible and is heavily tied to the bombings of the American embassies that killed so many people, including American citizens. The president has said, we have compelling information. They were planning additional terrorist acts. Today, we have struck back, and he is now heading back to Washington. There will be a briefing in about 20 minutes' time from the Pentagon. We don't even know at this point whether they were airstrikes or missiles.
Now, I understand at the moment that he has already made a statement.
Yes, he has. We have this statement here.
Today, we have struck back. The United States launched an attack this morning on one of the most active terrorist bases in the world. It is located in Afghanistan and operated by groups affiliated with Osama bin Laden, a network not sponsored by any state, but as dangerous as any we face. We also struck a chemical weapons-related facility in Sudan. Our target was the terrorists' base of operation and infrastructure. Our objective was to damage their capacity to strike at Americans and other innocent people.
Now, Mark, give us a quick reminder of what happened, what sparked this.
Well, remember these 2 bombings that just horrified the world. 257 people died in those, and America started this massive worldwide investigation. It has been cooperating with countries across the world. It has been dealing very closely in Islamabad, Pakistan, where authorities have actually found connections with people whose passports didn't tally. That has been traced, obviously, by pretty substantial, given that these targets have now been hit, has obviously led them to be convinced that there was the tie, that they were responsible. And it has been swift, as Madeleine Albright had always promised.
OK, Mark, thanks very much. And we, of course, will bring you more information on that bomb attack as soon as we have it during the programme. Okay, police divers are searching a river in the Yorkshire Dales tonight. It's feared a young newlywed couple have drowned on the second day of their honeymoon. Lynn and Barry Collette haven't been seen since going walking by a river on Monday. Fernando is there.
In the chilly waters of the Strid, police divers hunt for missing honeymoon couple Lynn and Barry Collette. Trainee nurse Lynn and her husband Barry were married just last Saturday. It was her 26th birthday yesterday. But they vanished on Monday, and after sightings of a body and the discovery of a jacket in the waters here, police fear the worst.
There was a red jacket found further downriver from the Strid the following morning, that's Tuesday morning, and that contained some papers in Lynn's name and also a key for a cottage, which led us to a holiday cottage at Apple Treewick. At the cottage, when the officers went in, there was a lot of wedding cards stood on tables and the shelves and a mantelpiece within the cottage, and there was part of a wedding cake.
In the heart of the Yorkshire Dales, the Strid is popular with walkers and tourists, but its beauty belies its danger. The water flow right now is actually a lot less than it was when the Colletts vanished, and these rocks covered in algae can be terrifyingly slippery, and if you do fall in, you can be swept away within seconds. These waters are treacherous too for the divers. A short time ago they finished for the day. They'll try again tomorrow, but for the parents of both Lynn and Barry staying nearby, the uncertainty goes on, hoping for the best but increasingly fearing the worst. Ben Ando, North Yorkshire, 5 News.
We'll take a short break right now. When we come back, we'll have the latest on the American airstrikes that have taken place tonight. And New York, so good, United came back for him twice. That's real people, real stories, real news on 5 News after the break.
What a difference a day makes. 24 little hours. What a difference a day makes. And the difference is you.
How good is your toilet cleaner?
Mine smells nice.
Mine gets rid of germs.
Mine shifts lime scale.
Now there's one that does all three. New Domestos Active Toilet Gel. Its unique gel formula. 1, kills germs. 2, attacks lime scale. And 3, freshens.
When you've got a headache, every second hurts. Because it's soluble, Disprin Extra can start to work in only 5 minutes. Disprin Extra can start to work in only 5 minutes.
Now I had the time of my life. No, I never felt this way before.
Had the time of my life, and I owe it all to you.
For the time of your life, call your travel agent or Sandals on 0800 742 742.
This is 5 News at 7:12. Now, a reminder that while we've been on air, America has announced that it has attacked targets in Sudan and Afghanistan in retaliation for the embassy bomb attacks. We will, of course, bring you more details when we get them. Now, it's that time of year again, the joy and the agony of finding out those A-level results. Examiners say the pass rate has increased by 0.2%. It's not much, but it means that this year, 87.8%, that's nearly 9 out of 10 pupils passed their A-levels. Well, the question asked every year is, are they getting easier? Here's Geeta Guru Murthy.
Ecstasy.
Agony. Up and down the country, an unusually volatile day even for teenagers. As dreams collapse or come true.
They might not look it, but they're nervous. In 5 minutes' time, students at this college in Southampton will know their A-level results. Have they done dreadfully or brilliantly? And even if they've done well, is it simply because the exams are getting easier?
Overall, with pass rates up, the boy at the top of the queue, Peter Spake, is hopeful but nervous. After 2 years' work and 2 months of waiting, the moment has come. Certainly all the students here think the tests have been tough enough.
Oh, E in psychology. And for biology, a D. I think they're very hard A-levels, too hard in some cases.
I think the exams people may be working harder and getting better marks, but I don't think the exams are getting easier at all.
The college English teacher is also a chief examiner. He thinks the papers are getting more difficult. He compares this year's exam with one set 10 years ago. Some of the texts are the same. For instance, Jane Austen's Mansfield Park.
The questions also seem to me quite similar, in that we have a question in 1988 about the role of the Crawfords and the way they're presented in Mansfield Park, and a similar question this time focusing on the Bertrams and the Prices in 1998. So the question styles seem very similar, although I think the demands would be greater because here the candidates have the book open in front of them and the sophistication of their ideas and analysis will need to be greater to satisfy an examiner.
Government is determined that A-levels maintain their currency and their status so that whatever results these students have got, it does mean something in the grown-up world of university and work. Geeta Gurumurthy, Southampton, 5 News.
The drug czar Keith Halliwell today launched a new government advertising campaign to warn of the dangers of heroin abuse. It comes at a time when cheap supplies of the drug are fueling an increase in addicts, particularly among the young. For tonight's First on 5, Gabriel Range reports on a controversial detox program, one that claims to bypass the horrors of withdrawal. A word of warning though, some of the pictures in this report are pretty graphic.
Lee's been a heroin addict for 3 years. He's waking up from a controversial rapid detox treatment, which is claimed to be 99% successful, safe and virtually painless. 5 days ago, Lee and his mother came to this private clinic after even he realised his habit had got out of hand.
Is it heroin you have been taking?
Yeah, it's been heroin, yeah.
How much you've been taking?
About 10 bags a day.
Around 7 grams?
Right. Yeah, it's 7 grams.
Right, 7 grams, yes.
His habit costs £300 a day, which is why his parents are prepared to spend £2,500 to get him on the radical Detox 5. They claim their programme will take Lee from heroin to hero in just 5 days.
We are not going to check for drugs, because we know you will probably have plenty of heroin, I'm afraid, in your system. No, this is just to check your liver.
To make sure Lee's physically strong enough to stand up to the treatment, doctors have to take a few tests. A sample of blood will be analysed to check that Lee's liver can cope with the detoxifying drugs.
There's a lot of people who go through the cold turkey find it hellish and give up, really. So we'll be using 5 different combinations of types of medication to keep you comfortable.
The idea behind Detox 5 is that the patient sleeps through the most painful parts of cold turkey. Then, when the body's virtually heroin-free, the patient's given naltrexone.
Relax, that's it.
Naltrexone blocks the effects of opiates, so even if the patient takes heroin, it will have no effect. Shortly after his first injection, Lee falls into a deep sleep, which will last for 3 days.
On Monday, I admit a robot, and on Friday, I discharge a human being.
Although Lee will sleep for most of the next few days, his body will still feel the effects of heroin withdrawal, with vomiting, diarrhea, and restlessness. In fact, he's so heavily sedated that he can hardly get out of bed, so there's no chance of him discharging himself. That's how Detox 5 can claim that 99% of patients complete their programme.
Detox 5 advertised in magazines like The Big Issue as virtually pain-free effective treatment for heroin addiction. It's true that 99% of people will complete the 5-day detox, but a very much smaller percentage will be heroin-free 12 months later. That's why the clinic's critics say they're making extravagant claims.
The National Addiction Centre's worried by deaths at other clinics using different techniques and doubts claims that any rapid detox is pain-free.
It simply isn't true. You'll still get some withdrawal symptoms, even with massive pharmaceutical intervention, so that's not true. And then The further promise is that there's no risk, you won't die. Sadly not true. The further promise is that it worked better than anyone else's treatment. Not true. Further promise it will help you in the long term. So not surprising that vulnerable people were fairly desperate about their condition will put the money. Who wouldn't?
There has to be risks with sedative detox. We are suppressing the person's ability to breathe properly, ability to move about properly, ability to meet their own personal hygiene needs and breathing needs. So that's why it's essential that they're monitored on a very close basis. And so our safety record is because we monitor people quite carefully. And that's unfortunately one of the reasons why the cost is as it is.
With someone who's been taking 7 grams of heroin for several years, you could expect quite a bad reaction today.
Lee's near the end of the treatment, and naltrexone has just flushed the last bit of heroin out of his body.
You're feeling pretty emotional at the moment.
He's coming to terms with the mental and physical sensation of being heroin-free.
It's a good sign that you're feeling emotional, because it means all that crap's out of your system and feelings are getting back in again. But it feels a bit strange, doesn't it? Because it's not something you're used to. Everything's going to seem very, very intense at the moment.
In his mental faculties, he's come around very well. Really, he's very much aware of what's happening and what we are doing.
But the acid test will be whether Lee will stay off heroin once the sedatives have worn off. And until there's an independent study showing exactly how many patients are heroin-free 12 months later, the medical establishment remains sceptical.
Gabriel Range reporting. Now we'll bring you the latest on that American bombing at the end of the show. So far, we know that America has launched airstrikes on Sudan and Afghanistan. Mark Jordan will be here in a few minutes with the very latest. Right now, though, Trish is here with the sport.
Thanks, Charlie. England's cricketers have lost the final of the one-day triangular tournament at Lord's despite a promising start. World champion Sri Lanka beat them comfortably by 5 wickets. John Leonard reports.
Whoever claimed that Mike Atherton can't play one-day cricket was in for a shock at Lord's, guiding England to a great start. Nick Knight anchored the innings superbly, with England threatening a big total. But then, of course, a collapse. Knight falling to Muralitharan just short of a century. Ali Brown was England's hope of quick runs, but he too became one of Muralitharan's 5 victims. And Darren Gough did little to raise spirits with the bat, Sri Lanka needing a realistic 257 for victory. But Gough struck back with the ball in the first over, demolishing Jayasira's stumps for a duck. That was the last and only glimmer of hope. Atapato helped himself to a brilliant century. It was all too easy for the world champions. A victory by 5 wickets. John Leonard, 5 News.
It's day 3 of the European Athletics Championships in Budapest, and having already grabbed gold and silver in the 100 metres, more medals look promising for Britain.
In the men's 400 metres, Mark Richardson's semi-final second place of 45.41 seconds means he's in the final. But Roger Black's controversial replacement, Solomon Wariso, continued to live on the knife edge. He finished 4th and just qualified. British record holder Ewan Thomas, on the other hand, notched up the fastest qualifying time of 44.82 seconds. And again, Britain's women equalled their efforts. Alison Kirbishley's second place finish of 51.43 seconds means that she and teammate Donna Fraser are in the final. And British medal hopes look good in the 200 metres too. Catherine Merry continued Linford Christie's success as a coach. She fought through to nab second place to go through to the semi-finals in a time of 23.23 seconds.
Aston Villa's Dwight Yorke is now a Manchester United player. Villa finally accepted Alex Ferguson's offer of £12 million for Yorke, dropping their original asking price by £4 million. The signing inside tonight's deadline for the Champions League makes the Trinidad and Tobago international eligible for selection.
I'm here to enjoy my football, which I'm sure I will. There's some fantastic players here as well, and also I'm looking forward to it. And that's what life is all about, enjoying your football.
That's the sport, Charlie.
Thanks very much, Trish. We go back to tonight's breaking news now. America's airstrikes have taken place against terrorist sites in the Sudan and Afghanistan. President Clinton said it was in retaliation for the embassy bombings in Kenya and Tanzania. He told the nation there was convincing evidence the groups had played a key role in the bombings, and he said America had now struck back. Mark Jordan joins me now. What's the latest, Mark?
Charlie, we're getting more details of exactly who it was targeted against. It was targeted against Hussein bin Laden network, international terrorist. He is actually an individual who's a sworn enemy of the United States. We also have details of the 2 sites in Afghanistan. There was 7 sites, and in Sudan there was a chemical weapons factory. That's been taken out. The Pentagon are not saying exactly how they did it, but what we do know is that they have been swift in their action.
Okay, Mark, thanks very much for now. That's it for tonight. Don't forget, you can get in touch with us on email at 5@itn.co.uk or by phoning us on 0870 60 555 50. We'll bring you the latest on the American airstrikes in our bulletins tonight. For now, though, bye-bye.